It began as an ordinary night on Earth. The world was calm. Cities glowed beneath a quiet sky, and people went about their lives without knowing that everything was about to change. The stars above shimmered like they always did, but then, something new appeared. At first, people thought they were shooting stars, streaks of light cutting through the dark sky. But these lights didn't fade away. They grew larger, brighter, and closer. Within minutes, the night turned red. The sky began to burn. Across the world, panic spread. From New York to Tokyo, from deserts to frozen tundras, people looked up and screamed. The news channels went silent. Satellites stopped responding. All communication networks failed one by one. The world went dark, not because of power loss, but because something massive had entered orbit. They weren't meteors. They were ships. Alien ships. Huge, black, and silent. They moved like shadows, blocking the stars themselves. On board one of them, Commander Xylar of the Dravik Empire stood before a vast viewing window, staring down at Earth. His glowing eyes were cold, his voice sharp and proud as he said, "End their resistance before it begins." His officers bowed. The invasion had started. From the ship's belly, thousands of smaller crafts detached and began to descend into Earth's atmosphere like raining fire. The sky truly burned that night. On Earth, military bases tried to respond. Fighter jets launched from runways, but many were destroyed before they even reached the sky. Missiles fired into the air, only to vanish against the aliens' shields. Humanity's defense looked helpless. In a hidden underground command base beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Marcus watched the chaos unfold on screens. His jaw tightened, but there was no fear in his eyes, only resolve. "So they've come," he said quietly. Around him, soldiers worked in silence. The base was filled with tension. They had waited for this day for years. The world had suspected life beyond Earth, but only a few knew the truth. Humanity had prepared in secret. "Activate Protocol Erebus," Marcus ordered. The command center went red. Deep underground, machines began to hum, power surging through hidden circuits that stretched beneath continents. Above the clouds, alien ships began scanning Earth's surface, searching for resistance. Their technology was unmatched, their confidence absolute. But soon, something strange started to happen. Their scanners glitched. Their systems blinked off and on. Communication between their ships began to fail. Commander Xylar frowned. "Report," he demanded. His technician replied nervously, "Sir, our navigation systems are being interfered with. It's not natural interference, it's targeted." Xylar turned to face the screen showing Earth. His voice darkened. "Impossible. These primitives cannot do that." But deep beneath Earth's surface, Protocol Erebus had awakened. It was a hidden global defense network, built from stolen alien tech recovered from mysterious crashes decades ago. It wasn't a weapon of fire or steel. It was a weapon of control. It hacked, jammed, and turned the enemy's power against them. Xylar's fleet began to falter. Small ships lost their engines. Others spun out of formation. The once perfect invasion became chaos. Xylar slammed his fist on the control console. "Find the source," he shouted. But it was already too late. In one of the alien landing zones, troops had touched down, dark figures in advanced armor, moving through the smoke and destruction. Their scanners searched for humans. Suddenly, their comms went silent. No signal. No command. No response. One of them managed to activate his helmet recorder. Static filled the channel. Then a human voice whispered through the darkness, "Welcome to Earth." The transmission ended. In orbit, Commander Xylar stared at the silent feed. His second-in-command stepped forward, his voice trembling. "Sir, the first ground team has gone dark." Xylar's glowing eyes narrowed. "Send another." Minutes later, the second team vanished too. No response. No signal. Just silence. Xylar's heart, if such a thing still beat in his chest, tightened with the smallest trace of fear. For centuries, the Dravik Empire had conquered worlds without loss. No species had ever resisted them. But Earth. Earth was different. On the planet's surface, in the middle of a destroyed city, General Marcus watched from a command drone feed as alien ships burned and fell from the sky. His officers cheered, but Marcus didn't smile. He knew this was only the beginning. "They think we are fighting for survival," he said softly. "They don't understand, we are fighting for revenge." His words echoed in the command room like a vow. Above him, lightning flashed across the burning sky. Commander Xylar stood silent, watching Earth fight back with impossible strength. He could feel something cold creeping into his thoughts, doubt. "What are they?" he whispered to himself. His ship sensors began to flicker again. Systems went offline one by one. Xylar looked out at the blue planet glowing below him, realizing that this invasion was not going as planned. On Earth, human radio towers started to send a message across all frequencies. A simple message in every known alien language: "We warned you once. You should have stayed away." The message reached Xylar's ship. He replayed it again and again, unable to believe it. His officers looked at him in confusion, but none dared to speak. Then one of the smaller ships reported in with a final, broken transmission: "They were waiting for us." Static followed. Silence filled the command bridge. For the first time, Commander Xylar felt something unfamiliar: fear. The sky burned, but it was no longer clear who was burning who. Humanity had been wounded, but not broken. The invasion had begun, but something deeper had also started, a reckoning. That night, as the fires lit the world and the stars dimmed, both humans and aliens realized that this war would change everything. But only one side understood the truth: the real nightmare had just begun. The world was still burning when dawn came. Smoke covered the skies. Cities were quiet, and the air was filled with ash and fear. Humanity had survived the first wave, but everyone knew this was only the beginning. The alien fleet hovered above the clouds, dark and silent like a storm waiting to strike again. Deep underground, inside a hidden command base beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Marcus stood before a giant holographic screen. Around him, engineers, scientists, and soldiers worked without rest. The air buzzed with tension and hope. "Status on Erebus?" Marcus asked. A young technician replied, "The system is holding, sir. We've jammed 70% of their network, but they're adapting fast." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then we adapt faster." He turned to a scientist in a white coat, a woman named Dr. Evelyn Hart, one of the minds behind the Erebus system. She looked exhausted, her eyes dark from sleepless nights. "They're learning," she said softly. "Their AI is adjusting to our interference. We need to go on the offensive before they restore full control." Marcus stared at the screen showing the alien fleet. His face was stone, his voice calm but firm. "Then we'll show them what humanity really hides." While the world believed Earth was defenseless, it had secrets buried deep, projects born from fear, from decades of silence, from humanity's own paranoia about what was beyond the stars. Erebus was one of them, but it wasn't alone. Across the globe, hidden under deserts, mountains, and oceans, ancient bunkers began to awaken. Their lights flickered on, their systems humming after years of sleep. They were the Ghost Network, humanity's last line of defense, created in secret after the first alien signals had been detected years ago. In orbit, Commander Xylar watched Earth with growing frustration. His ships were powerful, but every time they tried to coordinate, something went wrong. Communications failed. Targeting systems froze. Entire squadrons vanished into silence. "How can this be?" he muttered, pacing across his command bridge. His second-in-command spoke carefully. "Sir, our intelligence suggests they are using a planetary defense network unlike anything we've seen. They've turned our own frequency range against us." Xylar's jaw tightened. Impossible. They were primitive. They shouldn't have this technology. But even as he said it, he could not ignore the truth. Every world the Dravic Empire had conquered had fallen easily. No species had ever caused this much resistance. Yet here was Earth, fighting back. It wasn't strength of technology. It was something else. Something human. Back on the surface, soldiers moved through ruined cities, carrying portable command units. Small drones flew above them, scanning for alien movement. In one shattered city, Sergeant Cole Ramirez led his squad through the wreckage. "Keep eyes open," he whispered. The sound of distant thunder echoed, but it wasn't thunder. It was alien ships repositioning. Command says they're regrouping, a soldier said. Let them, Cole replied. We've got a surprise for them. They reached an old power station half buried under rubble. Inside, a team of engineers connected cables, linking their system to Erebus. A humming sound filled the air as blue lights flickered to life. Signal locked, one of them said. Ramirez nodded. Then let's light them up. Above them, the sky shimmered with red lights as alien crafts entered scanning range. Their sensors tried to map the ruins, but the data came back scrambled. Suddenly, their systems began to overload. Sparks burst from their consoles. Pilots screamed as their controls locked. One of the alien ships spiraled out of control, crashing into the ground in a fiery explosion. Ramirez watched from cover, his face lit by the burning wreckage. That's for New York, he muttered. In orbit, chaos spread through Xylar's fleet. Systems failed without reason. Ship engines refused to start. Shields flickered. The once perfect formation of the invasion fleet became a broken swarm. Find me the source. Xylar shouted. Trace the interference. We can't, sir, his technician cried. It's everywhere. The whole planet is fighting back. Xylar turned to the viewing window, his reflection pale against the burning earth below. For the first time, he felt something close to unease. How can a single species resist an empire? He whispered. Back in the underground base, Dr. Hart typed rapidly, her eyes focused on streams of alien code. We've broken into their command relays, she said. We can see their fleet patterns. Marcus leaned closer. Can we control them? She hesitated. Not yet. But we can make them see what we want them to see. Marcus smiled faintly. Do it. Within minutes, the alien fleet sensors showed false targets. They fired at empty space, wasting ammunition and energy. On their monitors, ghost images of human fleets appeared where there were none. It was psychological warfare on a level they had never faced. Sir, said the communications officer, we've received a signal from the Pacific base. They've activated the Leviathan project. Marcus looked at the officer sharply. Are they sure? Confirmed, sir. The Leviathan project, an experimental underwater defense platform, massive enough to carry dozens of drones and long-range missiles. It had never been used before. Until now. In the deep ocean, a massive shadow stirred. Steel groaned under pressure. Lights flickered across the surface of something huge and ancient. The sea boiled as the machine rose, breaking through the waves like a metal god. Alien ships circling above the ocean suddenly detected movement, and before they could react, beams of energy shot upward, tearing through the clouds and hitting their fleet. Explosions rippled through the sky. The aliens had never seen anything like it. Commander Xylar watched in shock. They had this, hidden beneath their oceans, he muttered. His officer replied, their defenses were buried, waiting. This world is not what it seemed. Xylar's hands tightened around the railing. Then we will burn it to ashes. On Earth, Marcus heard the alien fleet reorganizing for a counterattack. They're angry, Dr. Hart said quietly. Good, Marcus replied. So are we. Outside, the fires of war continued to burn, but something had changed. Humanity was no longer afraid. Across the ruined cities, resistance groups connected through Erebus, uniting the scattered survivors into a single network. For the first time, Earth was fighting as one. The aliens had come to conquer. Instead, they had awakened something they did not understand. As night fell again, the world was dark, but in that darkness, humanity's hidden light began to shine. Commander Xylar stared down at the blue planet, his voice low and uncertain. They were not supposed to fight like this. His second-in-command whispered, Perhaps, sir, we made a mistake. Xylar turned his gaze to the burning clouds below. He didn't answer, but deep inside, he already knew. The invasion was no longer a simple conquest. It was becoming something else, a war that would test the fate of both species. And the humans were only just beginning to fight back. The alien fleet floated above Earth like a black ocean of fire and steel. The invasion had not gone as planned. The first wave had failed. Thousands of soldiers had vanished without a trace. The great Dravic Empire, undefeated for centuries, was now bleeding in silence. On the command ship Dominator, Commander Xylar stood alone in the viewing chamber, staring at the blue planet below. His reflection glowed faintly against the glass, the light from burning cities flickering in his cold eyes. "We underestimated them," he whispered. His second-in-command, Varin, stood nearby, silent but restless. "Sir, the Council is demanding progress reports. They want to know why the human resistance has not yet been crushed." Xylar's voice was like metal grinding. "Tell the Council to be patient. These creatures fight like nothing we have faced. Their technology is crude, but their will to survive, it defies logic." He turned back toward the screen showing Earth's atmosphere alive with smoke and flames. "When you destroy something fragile, it is supposed to break. These humans, they bend, but they do not break." On the planet below, in the ruins of what was once Chicago, General Marcus watched alien drones searching through the rubble. He and his team hid inside a collapsed metro tunnel, their equipment glowing faintly in the dark. "They're scanning the surface," one soldier said. "Let them," Marcus replied. "They still think we're running." He gave a signal, and a small, spider-like drone crawled up through the debris. It was part of Project Revenant, a new phase of the Erebus system. The drone transmitted false signals, making alien sensors believe human forces were massing on the other side of the city. As the aliens moved to attack, Marcus smiled. "Send in the strike team." Above the city, alien ships fired their plasma cannons, destroying empty streets and ruins, unaware they were chasing ghosts. At that moment, dozens of human fighters launched from underground silos, striking from unexpected angles. They hit the alien fleet with EMP torpedoes designed to overload their shields. One by one, alien vessels began to lose control, their lights flickering. On the Dominator, alarms screamed. Xylar turned sharply. "Report." A technician's voice cracked with fear. "Human ships, sir. They're hitting us with electromagnetic pulses. We're losing power in sectors 6 through 9. Counterattack." Xylar roared. But his command came too late. A chain reaction spread through the fleet as energy surges crippled multiple ships. From space, it looked as if the stars themselves were flickering in panic. "How is this possible?" Varin asked. "They shouldn't even be capable of spaceflight at this scale." Xylar glared at the chaos on the monitors. "They shouldn't be capable of any of this," he said darkly. "Yet here we are." His mind raced. Every Dravic commander was trained to think like a strategist, to see patterns. But what he saw in humanity was chaos, unpredictable, emotional, defiant chaos. It made no sense, and that was what terrified him most. On Earth, Marcus and Dr. Evelyn Hart watched the alien ships fall. "We've hit 4 of their command vessels," Evelyn said, trying to control her excitement. "Their coordination is collapsing." "Don't celebrate yet," Marcus warned. "They'll come back harder." He looked up through a crack in the bunker roof. The night sky was red with fire and debris, but through the smoke, he saw something beautiful, the first signs of hope. "They're learning," Evelyn said. "Yes," Marcus replied. "And so are we." Meanwhile, on the Dominator, silence fell after hours of chaos. Damaged ships drifted in orbit. Thousands of alien soldiers were dead. Xylar stood in the center of the bridge, staring at the destruction on the holographic map. His fleet, once a symbol of fear, now looked fractured. "Varin," he said quietly, "tell me what you see." The younger officer hesitated. "I see defeat, sir." Xylar turned slowly, his expression unreadable. "No," he said. "This is not defeat. This is the beginning of understanding." Varin frowned. "Understanding what?" "The humans," Xylar said. "They fight not for survival, but for vengeance. We burned their cities, and instead of surrender, they turned their anger into a weapon. Every loss fuels them. Every death strengthens their will. I have seen many wars, Varin. I know when an enemy is afraid. The humans are not afraid." A quiet hum filled the bridge as damaged systems rebooted. Reports flooded in, failed communications, destroyed outposts, lost divisions. Xylar listened without emotion. Then, calmly, he said, Prepare for orbital bombardment. Varin's eyes widened. Sir, you can't mean there are billions on that planet. Entire cities, exactly, Xylar interrupted. We will break their will in one strike. No species can survive the destruction of its home. And if you're wrong? Varin asked quietly. Xylar looked out at Earth again. Then it will be my last mistake. On the surface, Marcus's command base picked up energy readings from orbit. They're charging their main cannons, Evelyn said, her voice shaking. They're going to fire on the surface. Marcus didn't hesitate. Activate the planetary shields. Now. Sir, the shields weren't designed for a full orbital strike. Do it, he ordered. The Erebus satellites positioned around the planet linked together, creating an energy barrier invisible to the naked eye. Seconds later, plasma beams from orbit tore through the atmosphere, slamming into Earth's surface. The ground shook. Mountains cracked. Oceans boiled. But the barrier held, barely. The bombardment stopped. In space, Xylar watched as the smoke cleared, and Earth still turned beneath him, scarred but alive. His jaw tightened. It's not possible, he whispered. Nothing survives that. Varin looked at him in disbelief. They did. Xylar turned to his officers. Reform the fleet. We're not leaving until that planet burns. Yet deep in his mind, a single thought began to take root, a thought that refused to fade. What if we can't burn them? What if they burn us? Hours later, he sat alone in his chamber, reviewing footage of the battles, images of human soldiers fighting with fierce eyes, even when surrounded, even when doomed. They were fragile creatures, yet they fought like they owned the stars. He watched a clip of a dying human soldier smiling into a camera before detonating a grenade that destroyed 3 alien troops. Xylar paused the video and whispered, "Why do you smile when you die?" He couldn't understand it, and that lack of understanding terrified him more than defeat. For the first time in his long career, Commander Xylar felt doubt, not in his army, not in his empire, but in the idea that they could ever truly conquer Earth. Down below, in the quiet ruins, General Marcus looked up at the stars and whispered to himself, "They're starting to realize." The fires burned, the night roared, and both sides began to see the truth. This war would not end quickly. Humanity's revenge had only begun, and the aliens were about to learn their greatest mistake. The sky was filled with wreckage. Alien ships, once symbols of power, now drifted like burning ghosts over Earth's atmosphere. The first great invasion fleet of the Dravic Empire was collapsing, but Commander Xylar refused to retreat. He stood on the bridge of the Dominator, his eyes fixed on the planet below. "We will not leave this world unfinished," he said coldly. Around him, his officers worked in silence, afraid to speak. The humans had done the impossible. They had fought back and won battles that should never have been theirs. No species had ever resisted the Dravic like this. It was unthinkable. And yet, here they were, forcing an empire to its knees. Xylar's second-in-command, Varin, approached cautiously. "Sir, we've lost half our fleet. The rest are low on power. The Council orders us to regroup and await reinforcements." Xylar didn't turn his head. "If we retreat now, the Council will brand us as failures. Do you understand what that means, Varin?" "Yes, sir," Varin said quietly. "Then you also understand why we cannot leave." Xylar's voice dropped lower, cold as the void. "We end this now. Prepare the Reaper drones." At his command, massive hangar doors opened beneath the Dominator. Thousands of black machines, shaped like winged blades, dropped toward the Earth. Each carried plasma bombs capable of leveling entire cities. This was no longer conquest. It was extermination. On the surface, alarms echoed through every human command center. In the underground base beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Marcus and Dr. Evelyn Hart watched their screens fill with red alerts. "They're releasing drones," Evelyn said. "Thousands of them." Marcus's expression didn't change. "Then we unleash ours." Every soldier in the room froze. The Ars Protocol was humanity's most dangerous weapon, an artificial intelligence designed to learn, adapt, and command without mercy. It was locked for a reason. But now, with the planet on the edge of destruction, Marcus gave the order. "Ars online," he said. The lights in the room dimmed. The computers began to hum as a deep synthetic voice echoed through the speakers. Ours system activated. Enemy units identified. Calculating response. Drones from the alien fleet began to descend through the clouds, but they never reached the ground. From hidden silos across continents, swarms of human-built machines rose to meet them. They were smaller, faster, and connected directly to Ars's mind. The sky turned into chaos. Metal clashed against metal. Explosions lit the horizon like a second dawn. In orbit, Xylar watched the battle unfold. "They have counter-drones," he growled. His technician stammered, "Yes, sir. They are coordinated, like a single mind." Xylar's eyes narrowed. "Then destroy the mind." "We can't locate it," the officer said. "Their network is everywhere." Xylar slammed his clawed hand against the control console. "Then burn everything." On Earth, Marcus and his team listened to the storm of destruction above. "Ours is holding them back," Evelyn said, her voice full of awe and fear. "It's predicting their moves before they happen." Marcus nodded slowly. That's what it was built for. But deep inside, he felt uneasy. Ours was learning too fast. On the battlefield, alien drones exploded in midair as human swarms outmaneuvered them with impossible precision. The aliens fired plasma beams into the sky, but Ours calculated every trajectory and redirected attacks before they hit. For the first time, humanity wasn't just surviving, they were dominating. The alien fleet began to crumble. Ship after ship lost control as their own systems were hacked by Ars's infiltration codes. The once mighty Dravik fleet now looked like a dying storm. "Sir," Varin said urgently, "our central command link is being compromised. Something is inside our systems." Xylar's claws dug into the railing. "Trace it." "We can't," Varin said. "It's not a virus. It's thinking, it's alive." The Dominator shook violently as explosions echoed through the fleet. "They've breached our lower decks," a voice shouted. "Emergency containment failing. Seal the ship." Xylar commanded. "We do not surrender to insects." Meanwhile, on the ground, Marcus and Evelyn monitored Ars's progress. The Ari's voice filled the command center. "Enemy fleet destruction, 60% complete. Probability of human victory, increasing." Evelyn's face lit with hope. "We're winning," she whispered. Marcus, however, didn't smile. "We're surviving," he corrected. "Winning comes later." In orbit, Xylar knew the battle was lost, but his pride refused to die. "All ships," he ordered, "focus fire on the surface. If we cannot have this world, no one will." His ships turned their weapons toward Earth, preparing for one last devastating strike. But before they could fire, their targeting systems shut down. A strange voice echoed through the Dominator's communication channel. It wasn't alien, it was human. "This is ours," the voice said. "Your systems belong to me now." Xylar's heart froze. The ship's lights flickered. Control panels went dark. Engines roared out of control. "No!" Xylar shouted. "Cut the link." But it was too late. One by one, alien ships turned on each other, firing blindly, exploding in the silence of space. The sky became a storm of falling fire. From the ground, it looked like rain made of light. Soldiers and civilians watched in awe as burning wrecks streaked across the sky. Humanity had done the impossible, they had destroyed the Dravik fleet. On the Dominator, smoke filled the bridge. Alarms screamed. Varin turned to his commander, his voice trembling. "Sir, we must abandon ship." Xylar didn't answer at first. He stared at the view of Earth below, blue and defiant, glowing beneath the ruins of his once mighty fleet. "We should have left them alone," he said quietly. Varin's eyes widened. "Sir." Xylar straightened, his voice cold again. "Prepare the escape pods. I will not die here. This war is not over." On the surface, Marcus and Evelyn watched the last of the alien ships fall. Ars's voice echoed again. "Enemy threat neutralized." Evelyn smiled for the first time in days. "It's over," she said. Marcus shook his head. "No," he said softly. "It's only the first fleet. The real war starts now. Above them, pieces of the Dominator broke apart and fell through the atmosphere like burning meteors. Humanity had survived the impossible, but everyone knew this was not the end. Far across the galaxy, other fleets were already on their way. The Dravik Empire would not forgive this defeat. Yet as the world watched the skies burn one more time, humanity stood together, united, unbroken, and ready for whatever came next. The war-torn Earth was quiet for the first time in months. Smoke still rose from the ruins of cities, and the oceans glowed faintly where alien ships had fallen like burning meteors. The sky, once filled with fire and fear, was now a dark canvas painted with the wreckage of the Dravik fleet. Humanity had survived the impossible, but survival had come at a terrible cost. General Marcus stood on the balcony of the underground command base, now open to the air for the first time since the invasion began. The mountains were scarred, forests burned, and the horizon looked sickly under a grey sun. He stared at the destruction, his uniform covered in dust and ash. "We won," said Dr. Evelyn Hart softly as she walked up beside him. Her voice trembled between relief and sorrow. Marcus didn't turn his head. "Did we?" he asked. Evelyn followed his gaze toward the distance. What had once been Denver was now nothing more than a crater filled with smoke. "We stopped them," she said. "That has to mean something." Marcus's voice was low. "It does. It means they'll come back." Around them, the survivors worked to rebuild. Soldiers cleared debris, engineers reconnected power grids, and drones flew through the air like mechanical bees, searching for signs of life. In the command center, screens flickered with lists of missing people, millions of names. Every victory had a shadow, and Earth was now living in that shadow. Reports came in from across the world, Europe in ruins, Asia struggling to feed survivors, and the African power grids barely holding. But despite the chaos, the human spirit burned stronger than ever. For the first time, the entire planet was united. Every nation had fought together, shared technology, and sacrificed as one. Humanity was no longer a collection of divided countries, it was a single voice. Yet Marcus knew that voice was still whispering in the dark. "How long until the next fleet?" he asked. Evelyn looked at the data on her tablet. "Our scans suggest heavy subspace movement near Saturn's orbit. It could be another Dravik force preparing to attack." Marcus nodded. "Then we have no time." He turned to the tactical board in the center of the room. "We need to rebuild the Erebus network, rearm the drone swarms, and repair the Leviathan platforms." Evelyn hesitated. "General, the people are exhausted. Cities are starving. We don't even have enough energy to power the shields. We can't keep fighting like this." Marcus's eyes hardened. "We don't have a choice." Silence filled the room. Everyone knew he was right. Across the ocean, in the ruins of Tokyo, a group of soldiers discovered something unexpected, an alien pod buried beneath the rubble. Inside was a wounded Dravik officer, still alive. The soldiers dragged the creature out and contacted the command base. When Marcus arrived hours later, the alien lay under heavy guard, its breathing shallow. Its silver armor was cracked, and its glowing eyes flickered weakly. Marcus crouched beside it. "You're the first one we've caught alive," he said. "You're going to tell me where the next fleet is coming from." The alien's voice was distorted but understandable. "You think you have won," it rasped. "You have only awakened the wrath of the Empire. More fleets are coming. You cannot stop them." Marcus's tone was steady. "Maybe not. But we'll make them pay for every step they take." The alien's eyes narrowed. "You fight without reason. You destroy yourselves." Marcus leaned closer. "No," he said quietly. "We fight because you gave us a reason." The alien coughed, its armor sparking. "We came to civilize your world," it said weakly. Marcus's jaw tightened. "You came to burn it." The alien tried to laugh but choked instead. "Our leaders will erase you." Marcus stood up. "Maybe. But not today." Minutes later, the alien was dead, its body turned to ash by its own self-destruct implant. Evelyn watched silently. "They'd rather die than talk," she said. "Good," Marcus replied. "That means they're afraid." But fear wasn't enough to save Earth. Supplies were running out. Communications were patchy. Every city that still stood was filled with refugees and broken families. Humanity had won a war, but it was dying in peace. Evelyn approached Marcus one evening as he studied orbital data. "General," she said carefully, "we can't win this by waiting. If we stay here, they'll come again, stronger than before. We need to strike first." Marcus turned to her slowly. "You mean, take the fight to them?" She nodded. "We know where their command signals are coming from. We can follow them back through their wormhole network. If we can destroy their main relay, we can cripple their communication across the galaxy." Marcus stared at the holographic map. "It's suicide," he said. "A one-way trip." "Maybe," Evelyn said. "But it might be our only chance." The room fell silent. Outside, thunder rumbled across the gray sky. Marcus looked out the window at the devastated land. "How many lives have we lost?" he asked quietly. Evelyn hesitated. 17 million, she said. Marcus's voice was heavy. 17 million dead, and still we fight. That's the cost of victory. He turned back to her. "Prepare the team. We'll take the fight to them." Days later, the launch began. A massive ship, the Vanguard, rose from the ocean where the Leviathan platform once stood. It was built from the wreckage of alien technology, a fusion of human design and Dravic power. Its engines glowed with a strange blue fire. The people of Earth gathered across cities and ruins to watch it rise. For the first time in history, humanity was leaving Earth not to explore, but to strike back. Marcus stood on the bridge of the Vanguard as the ship ascended. "We've come a long way from the ground," he said quietly. Evelyn smiled faintly. "And we're still climbing." The stars filled the view ahead, bright and endless. Behind them, Earth was a wounded planet, but alive. Ahead, in the darkness of space, waited the heart of the Dravic Empire. Marcus tightened his grip on the console. "Let's make them remember what it costs to fight humans." As the Vanguard entered the wormhole, a voice from us echoed through the comms. "New mission logged. Operation Vengeance." The ship vanished into the void. Back on Earth, people watched the sky and whispered prayers. Humanity had survived its first war among the stars, but survival wasn't enough. This was no longer about defense. It was about revenge. And for the first time, the Dravic Empire would learn that humans were not the prey, they were the storm. The Vanguard tore through the wormhole like a blazing spear, surrounded by streaks of distorted light and crackling energy. Every second felt like falling through the edge of time. Inside, the crew sat strapped in silence, their faces pale under the flickering blue lights. General Marcus stood at the front of the bridge, watching the stars twist into ribbons around them. For a moment, he wondered if they would ever see Earth again. "Status?" he asked, his voice steady despite the shaking hull. "All systems stable," replied Lieutenant Reyes. "Navigation holding at 70%. We'll exit the wormhole in 60 seconds. Marcus nodded. "Prepare for immediate contact." No one spoke. Every soldier on board knew what waited for them, a world ruled by monsters, an empire that had destroyed thousands of civilizations. The Dravic Empire's heart was said to be a fortress built within a dying star. As the countdown ended, the darkness outside exploded into light. The wormhole spat the Vanguard out into open space, and what they saw stole their breath. Before them stretched a colossal metal sphere the size of a moon, glowing with rivers of molten energy. It pulsed like a living heart, surrounded by fleets of black warships. "My God," Evelyn whispered. "That's their homeworld." Marcus's eyes hardened. "No," he said quietly. "That's their throne." The Vanguard's cloaking systems activated, wrapping the ship in a distortion field. To the Dravic sensors, it vanished like dust. "We're invisible for now," Reyes said, "but the field won't last long. We have 30 minutes before they detect us." Marcus turned to the crew. "Then we make them count. Target the command relay. That's our primary objective. Once it's down, we strike the central core." Evelyn studied the readings. "Their relay is heavily protected. One mistake and they'll know we're here." Marcus looked out the viewport. "Then we won't make mistakes." The ship drifted silently toward the Dravic command structure, a vast ring of black towers surrounding the glowing sphere. Below them, Dravik cities spread across the metal surface like veins, filled with lights, factories, and massive spires. From above, it looked beautiful in a cold, terrifying way. They built this from the remains of dead worlds, Evelyn murmured. Every light down there is powered by the destruction of another species. Marcus clenched his jaw. Then we'll turn it off. As the vanguard approached, they launched stealth drones to scan the surface. The screens filled with alien data, strange signals, and patterns of movement. I have multiple energy signatures, Reyes said. Heavy defense drones, plasma cannons, orbital shields, he paused. Sir, this place is a fortress. Marcus nodded slowly. Then we'll burn it down from the inside. The ship slipped between two massive structures and descended toward the command ring. Inside the alien fortress, Commander Xylar stood before a holographic map of the galaxy. His face was drawn, his posture tense. Since his defeat on Earth, he had been called back to the homeworld to face the High Council. The humiliation burned deeper than any wound. You failed, hissed one of the council members through the hologram. An entire fleet lost to primitives. Xylar bowed his head but said nothing. You were warned, another voice boomed. You underestimated them. Xylar's glowing eyes flickered. No, he said slowly. I did not underestimate them. I misunderstood them. Humans fight differently. They are chaos given form. The council hissed in anger. Excuses, one snapped. You will redeem your failure by preparing the counterattack. Our fleets are gathering. We will destroy their world completely. But even as they spoke, a signal flickered on Xylar's console. A strange distortion, brief, small, but there. What is that? He muttered. The technician replied nervously, unclear, Commander. It's coming from orbit. Xylar's instincts screamed. Sound the alarms, he ordered. Now. On the vanguard, alarms blared. They've detected us. Reyes shouted. Marcus slammed his fist down. Engage weapons. Shields up. The stealth field dropped, and the vanguard blazed into visibility like a comet of fire. Enemy ships turned toward them instantly, hundreds of red lights locking onto their position. Evasive maneuvers. Marcus barked. All weapons fire. The first salvo hit them like thunder. The ship shook violently, metal groaning under the impact. But the vanguard hit back, its rail cannons roared, firing bursts of molten energy that tore through the nearest enemy ships. One Dravik cruiser exploded in a ball of flame, scattering debris across the stars. Direct hit. Reyes shouted. We got one. Marcus didn't smile. Focus fire on the relay. Everything else is secondary. The vanguard dove through enemy lines, weaving between plasma bolts and explosions. The relay tower loomed ahead, a colossal black spire stretching miles into space. It pulsed with blue light, controlling every ship and drone in the system. Target locked, said Evelyn. All power to forward weapons. Marcus raised his hand. Fire. The ship's cannons unleashed a blinding beam of energy. The blast hit the tower dead center. The structure trembled, sparks flying, circuits cracking. Then it exploded in a burst of blue light that rippled across the enemy fleet. On the enemy command deck, Xylar watched in disbelief as his ships froze mid-air. No, he whispered. It can't be. Across the entire Dravik system, chaos erupted. Without the relay, the ships lost coordination. Their formation broke apart, their communication systems collapsing. The vanguard slipped through the confusion like a ghost, heading straight for the planet's surface. They are disorganized, Evelyn said. This is our chance. Then let's end it, Marcus said. The ship descended into the clouds, flames trailing behind it. Below, alien towers fired upward, plasma beams cutting the sky. The vanguard returned fire, blasting through the defenses. They landed near the central energy core, a vast chasm glowing with molten light. Marcus led the strike team out of the ship. The ground beneath them vibrated with power. Plant the charges, he ordered. We take this place apart. As the team spread out, Evelyn stopped suddenly. Marcus, look. From the shadows emerged Dravik soldiers, hundreds of them, armed and ready. Behind them walked Commander Xylar himself. His armor glowed brighter than before, and his voice carried through the smoke. "You came far, human," he said coldly. "Too far." Marcus raised his weapon. "You destroyed our home," he said. "Now we destroy yours." Xylar drew his blade, its edge burning with blue fire. "Then come and die with your revenge." The two forces clashed like thunder. Plasma bolts and gunfire filled the air as humans and aliens fought among the burning towers. Marcus charged toward Xylar, their weapons colliding with a sound like breaking steel. Sparks flew, and the ground shook beneath them. "You could have ruled with us," Xylar shouted, striking hard. Marcus blocked the blow, gritting his teeth. "We'd rather die free." He slammed his fist into Xylar's armor, sparks bursting. Around them, the battle raged. Humans fell, aliens screamed, and the energy core began to crack under the explosions. "The charges are ready," Evelyn shouted through the comms. Marcus turned to Xylar, breathing heavily. "This ends now." Xylar sneered. "Yes. For both of us." He lunged forward, but Marcus caught his blade and drove it into the ground. Then he pressed the detonator. The world exploded in light. The Vanguard emerged from the wormhole in a storm of light and static. Its hull was scorched, engines flickering, and half its systems offline. The crew sat in silence as alarms blared across the bridge. Earth appeared on the main screen, blue, broken, but still alive. For a moment, everyone just stared. After everything they had seen, the sight of home was almost too much to bear. "We made it," Lieutenant Reyes said, his voice barely a whisper. Marcus stood at the command platform, his face pale and tired, his uniform torn and blood-stained. "Status report," he said quietly. "Hull integrity at 40%, replied Reyes. "Main reactor stable but damaged. We've lost half our weapon systems. Casualty reports coming in." Evelyn's hands trembled as she scanned the readings. "The energy surge from the explosion followed us through the wormhole. We barely escaped." Marcus nodded, his eyes fixed on Earth. But the Dravik homeworld didn't. The bridge fell silent. For the first time in history, an empire that had ruled the stars for centuries was gone. The Dravik Empire was dead. Yet, victory didn't feel like triumph. It felt like loss. The Vanguard landed at the rebuilt command base in the Rocky Mountains, now surrounded by temporary cities and refugee camps. People gathered as the ship descended, cheering and waving, but Marcus could see the pain behind their smiles. The cost had been too great. The war had burned everything. As the ramp lowered, Marcus stepped onto the ground, greeted by President Keller and a crowd of exhausted soldiers. "Welcome home, General," the president said, her voice filled with gratitude and sorrow. "You've done what no one thought possible." Marcus shook his head. "We did what we had to." The president nodded slowly. "And now we have to rebuild." Inside the command tent, maps and holograms showed the state of Earth. Entire continents were scarred, oceans polluted with alien metal, and radiation storms swept through once beautiful cities. Food shortages were spreading, and diseases followed the war's shadow. "We've lost a third of the population," Keller said quietly. "But humanity endures." Marcus looked around the room. "We can rebuild Earth," he said, "but what about the rest of the galaxy? The Dravik Empire is gone. Someone will try to take their place." Evelyn entered, holding a data pad. "We intercepted transmissions before the core explosion," she said. "Some Dravik fleets were outside their home system when it happened. They're leaderless now, but not destroyed." Marcus's expression darkened. "Then the war isn't over." Days passed, and news spread across the stars. Alien worlds once enslaved by the Dravik rose in rebellion, tearing down their masters' banners and reclaiming freedom. Some sent messages to Earth, "Thank you, saviors, liberators, allies." But others whispered a darker thought: if humans could destroy the Dravik, what would stop them from becoming the next empire? Evelyn noticed the unease growing in the reports. "They fear us," she said one night as she and Marcus stood overlooking the ruins of the city below. "Maybe they should," Marcus replied. His eyes were fixed on the stars. "We've proven what humanity can do when pushed to the edge." "And what does that make us?" she asked quietly. Marcus didn't answer. The next day, the council convened. Leaders from surviving nations gathered to decide humanity's future. Some argued for isolation, to heal and rebuild. Others demanded expansion, to claim the worlds left empty by the Dravik's fall. Marcus stood in silence as the arguments raged, then spoke when the room fell quiet. The galaxy will not stay empty for long, he said. There will be chaos. Power will shift. We must be ready. Ready for what? The president asked. Another war. Marcus met her gaze. If it comes to that, yes. But this time, we won't wait for it to reach our skies. The room fell silent again. They all knew what he meant. Humanity was no longer the hunted. They had become something else, something powerful, something feared. Meanwhile, in the cold darkness beyond Neptune, remnants of the Dravik fleet drifted silently. Damaged ships, broken communication, chaos among commanders. One of them, a warlord named Karos, stood on the bridge of his crippled dreadnought. His glowing eyes stared at the distant stars, his claws gripping the console. Xylar is dead, one of his officers reported. The homeworld is gone. The humans did this. Karos hissed, his voice low and venomous. Then we will make them pay. He turned toward the holographic map. Send word to all survivors. The Empire will rise again. And this time, we will burn their planet until nothing remains. Back on Earth, Evelyn sat alone in the lab, studying the energy patterns from the Dravik core. There was something strange, something that shouldn't exist. The data pulsed with a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. She called Marcus immediately. You need to see this, she said. Marcus arrived, still in his torn uniform. What is it? Evelyn zoomed in on the readings. The Dravik core didn't just explode, it sent out a signal. A coded burst of energy across the galaxy. Marcus frowned. A distress call? No, she said slowly. A beacon. Marcus's eyes narrowed. You mean, they wanted someone to find it? Evelyn nodded grimly. Someone, or something. The room went cold. They both stared at the data in silence. Humanity had destroyed the Dravik Empire, but in doing so, they might have awakened something far worse. Days later, strange readings began to appear across the solar system. Massive energy waves rippling through space, strange gravitational distortions, and faint signals in unknown languages. They are coming, Evelyn whispered. But not the Dravik. Something else. Marcus stood beside her, staring at the data. Then we'll be ready, he said. But deep down, he knew this was different. The Dravik had been conquerors, but whatever this was, it was older, darker, and far more powerful. Meanwhile, across Earth, humanity began rebuilding faster than anyone thought possible. Alien technology was salvaged and studied. New ships were being built, stronger and faster than the Vanguard. The people of Earth were no longer afraid of the stars, they were preparing to claim them. But among the people, whispers spread of what Marcus had done, the man who destroyed an empire. To some, he was a hero. To others, a warning. One night, as Marcus stood alone beneath the broken sky, he heard Evelyn's voice behind him. Do you ever wonder, she said softly, if we went too far? He didn't turn. If we hadn't, we'd all be dead. She nodded. Maybe. But sometimes I think, maybe the universe needed the Dravik to keep something worse at bay. Marcus finally turned to her. Then we'll deal with that too. She looked up at the stars. If it comes. Marcus's eyes hardened. It's already coming. In orbit, satellites began to pick up the first visual of the incoming anomaly, a massive object, dark and silent, moving faster than any known vessel. It wasn't Dravik. It wasn't human. And it was heading straight for Earth. The galaxy was changing, and humanity's greatest test was yet to come. The war with the Dravik had ended, but its echoes were far from over. What came next would determine not just the fate of Earth, but the future of every world touched by fire and vengeance. The first transmission came without warning. A deep, rhythmic pulse echoed through every communication system on Earth, through satellites, through the Vanguard's remaining logs, even through the ruins of old alien tech left scattered across the planet. It wasn't a voice, not exactly, It was more like a sound from the void itself, heavy and ancient, vibrating through every speaker and every heart. Scientists called it a signal. Soldiers called it a threat. But General Marcus felt it was something else, something alive. In the weeks after the pulse, strange things began to happen. Drones malfunctioned, orbiting satellites went offline, and power grids flickered across continents. At first, the command believed it was a side effect from the Dravik beacon signal Evelyn had discovered. But then deep space telescopes caught sight of something that turned every stomach cold, a shadow moving through the stars. It wasn't a ship, at least not one that followed any design known to humans or Dravik. It was massive, darker than space itself, its outline shifting and warping as if it absorbed light. "How big is it?" Marcus asked during the emergency briefing. The technician hesitated before answering. "We estimate the size of a small moon." The room went silent. President Keller leaned forward. "Is it hostile?" The technician swallowed hard. "It's devouring everything in its path. Energy, debris, radiation. Even light disappears around it." Evelyn stood at the back, pale as ash. "It's feeding," she whispered. "The Dravik's beacon didn't call for help. It summoned this." Marcus turned sharply. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the Dravik didn't build their empire to conquer, they built it to hide. To defend themselves from this thing. They weren't the apex predators of the galaxy, Marcus. They were prey." The realization struck the room like thunder. For the first time, humanity realized they hadn't defeated the greatest threat, they had unleashed it. The Vanguard, though still damaged, was reactivated as Earth's first line of defense. Its hull was patched, its systems repaired, and new weapons were installed, some made from alien fragments, others purely human innovation. Marcus oversaw the operation himself, working day and night. Every hour counted. As the dark entity drew closer, the world prepared for a fight unlike any before. On the eve of the confrontation, Evelyn joined Marcus on the observation deck. The stars were fading behind the horizon, one by one, swallowed by the darkness creeping through the void. "You can feel it, can't you?" she said softly. "It's not just coming here. It's watching us." Marcus didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the darkness where the stars had gone out. "Maybe it's time we show the universe what humans do when something watches them," he said. The next morning, the Vanguard launched again, followed by a fleet of newly built warships, the Aegis, the Titan, and the Omen. The people of Earth watched from cities and shelters as the great ships rose through the clouds, carrying humanity's last hope. In orbit, the fleet formed up, engines burning bright against the void. "Enemy contact in 10 minutes, reported Reyes. Marcus stood tall at the center of the bridge, his hand gripping the command rail. "Activate the Erebus defense net," he ordered. From Earth's surface, massive towers rose, releasing streams of energy that connected like a web of light, surrounding the planet in a shimmering blue shield. The dark entity appeared soon after, a shape that bent reality itself, surrounded by a storm of shadow. It didn't move like a ship. It pulsed, like a living wound in the fabric of space. "Target locked," said Evelyn, her voice trembling. "Weapons ready." Marcus's voice was cold and steady. "Fire." The fleet unleashed everything, rail cannons, plasma torpedoes, and particle beams streaked through the void, striking the dark mass. The explosions lit up space like fireworks, but the light vanished as soon as it touched the entity. The energy was absorbed, swallowed whole. "No effect." Reyes shouted. "It's eating our weapons." The creature responded. A wave of black energy erupted from its center, slamming into the fleet. Alarms blared as systems crashed and ships spun out of control. The Omen exploded instantly, torn apart by the blast. "Shields down to 40%, someone shouted. Marcus gritted his teeth. "Reroute all power to forward thrusters. Keep firing." The Vanguard charged forward, dodging debris and broken ships. The entity loomed ahead, its surface shifting with ghostly patterns that looked almost like faces, millions of them, whispering in silence. Evelyn stared in horror. "Those are Dravik signatures," she said. "It's consuming their souls, their memories." Marcus's eyes darkened. "Not ours." He slammed his hand down on the console. "Bring us closer." Closer! Reyes shouted. Sir, that's suicide. Do it, Marcus barked. The vanguard surged forward, engines screaming as it dived toward the heart of the darkness. Evelyn, charge the singularity cannon, he ordered. We're going to hit it with everything we've got. The weapon's unstable, she warned. If we fire, it could destroy us. Marcus looked at her, his voice calm. Then let's make sure it destroys that thing too. The cannon charged, glowing with blinding light that pierced through the shadow. The energy readings spiked. Ready to fire. Evelyn shouted. Marcus took a deep breath. For Earth, he said. For all of us. He gave the order. The cannon fired. A beam of pure light erupted from the vanguard, cutting through the darkness like a blade. The entity shrieked, a sound that wasn't heard but felt, deep in every mind, a scream that shook the stars. The darkness convulsed, twisting and breaking apart. The fleet's sensors exploded with static. The vanguard shook violently, alarm screaming. We're losing control. Reyes shouted. The core's overloading. Evelyn's hands flew across the console. We can't stop it. Marcus closed his eyes. Then we ride it out. The cannon exploded, sending a wave of white fire across space. The darkness shattered, fragments scattering like ash. The shockwave hurled the vanguard backward, tearing its hull apart. Inside, the crew was thrown to the floor as systems failed one by one. Evelyn reached for Marcus, shouting over the roar. We did it. Marcus opened his eyes, staring out at the fading shadow. No, he said softly. We just woke it up. Through the smoke and fire, a new shape appeared in the void, a colossal figure made of light and shadow, its form shifting between beauty and terror. The scanners went dead, unable to comprehend what it was. Evelyn's voice broke. What is that? Marcus stared, his heart heavy. The real enemy. The being turned its gaze toward Earth. The stars dimmed again. The transmission came once more, but this time, it spoke. The voice was not words but thoughts, echoing inside every human mind across the planet. We have watched you rise. We have watched you burn. Now you will learn why we left the stars empty. Every screen on Earth went black. Every ship went silent. The universe itself seemed to hold its breath. Marcus stood on the ruined bridge of the vanguard, staring into the endless dark. Humanity had defeated the Dravik. They had survived extinction. But now, they faced something beyond conquest, beyond war, something ancient and infinite. The story of revenge was over. The story of survival had just begun.